Welcome to Baseball Biz. I'm Mark Corbett, your host, and with me is my co-host, Mr. Brandon No Way of Sports Blitz Pod. That's right, you can find Brandon at Sports Blitz Pod on Twitter, myself, Mark, at The Baseball Biz. Okay, Sports Blitz Pod, what's going on in your life? What's happening in the world?
It's a fantastic day, Mark. The Yankees lost the series, although it was to the Red Sox. More on that later. And also, tonight is Game 1 of the Sternberg Cup Final. And yes, I have renamed the Stanley Cup to the Sternberg Cup.
Sternberg Cup Final? What do you mean?
Well, in case you've been living under a rock, the Lightning did make the finals. And we live in Tampa Bay, as do the Lightning. But they're playing the Canadiens, or Canadiens, depending on how you prefer to pronounce it. And they play in Montreal.
Oh, so you're talking about a Tampa team that plays here most of the time, but now it's going to Montreal. And that's therefore Stu, right?
Yep. The winner gets Sternberg's affection.
Well, I'm sure that's worth something. I have no idea what that is at the moment, but way to go, Tampa Bay. And thank you for reminding us that while this is a baseball show and a special Raise Up edition, we do want to celebrate the other champions of the Tampa Bay area, being, of course, former and soon-to-be again Stanley Cup winners, the Lightning, and, of course, Super Bowl winners. And we're talking about those champions as well, the Bucks. But today we're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Rays. And my gosh, it was time to set the world on fire, or at least put a few tinders on a smoldering fire. Well, and what I mean by that, Brandon, well, let's face it. About a week ago, we were kind of scratching our head and saying, daggone, 7 losses in a row? Jeez and crackers, who is this team? Are we going to be, is the Orioles going to be looking at climbing up over our back before it's all said and done? Okay, Brandon. Well, like I said, it was a crazy, crazy week. After losing that 7-game losing streak, the Rays came home and they made a difference. So we had a good series with the Red Sox, taking that. And then we also took the series with the Angels. And that was needed. We needed a boost of energy. We needed something to really bring the Rays back. And, of course, one of those things was a brand new player. The number 1 prospect for the last 2 years, Mr. Wander Franco.
Yeah, that was a big moment for him. He's getting his debut in a really big series, even though it is June. He hit a 3-run homer, and unfortunately, it didn't result in a win, but the Rays did go on to win the series, which was a big series, especially going into the Angels and Nationals series where, if you're slumping, you can't really sleep on them anyways, and that could really put you in a hole if you were to lose the Red Sox series as well.
Indeed. And with Wander, it was amazing watching him, especially early on, because one of the things we heard about him from the minor leagues coming up in Durham was his eye for the ball. I thought of him as, at the beginning anyway, somebody like Yandy Diaz because of the attention he would give to where it went. But the rest after that, he's kind of slowed down. But it's not because he hasn't made contact. He's done a good job making contact. It's just that it hasn't really been going out of the park. And not every contact has to go out of the park, but the outfielders where he's been hitting them, they've been catching them. Let's see now, Brandon. He's got 22 at-bats, and that gives him a 136 average. Ouch. But talk about short samplings, and it's still early. That's it. That's early.
Yeah, it's only been a week, And like you're saying, it's not like he's just striking out every single time. At least he's putting the ball in play. And
yes,
it's just going right to the fielders, which, that'll happen. But hopefully it doesn't prolong too long and he just keeps putting the ball in play, because if he just keeps doing what he's doing, they're eventually going to find the holes, find the gaps, and hopefully lead to more success.
And I think we'll see that from him. From this homestand, I would say probably the most exciting game for me was the one that actually had the lowest scoring. And that was the Thursday night game against the Red Sox, at the Trop. They had Nick Pivetta up there, man, the Red Sox pitcher. That guy, he just knocked my socks off watching an impressive 6.2 innings. I mean, The man had 0 hits, 0 runs. He did walk 2 people. But my gosh, it was amazing to watch him. I wish I'd had my notes here as far as how many pitches, but it was minimal. He was on top of that game. And so, after they pulled him, like I said, after about, 6.2 innings, they brought in a series of other pitchers, and things didn't work out as well. Oh, and Waka, our pitcher, he was up there. He did pretty good. 5 innings, he had 7 strikeouts. So it was an effective game, watching some effective pitching, which I enjoy. And this is in the era of, let me check and see if you got any sticky stuff. So if there's any, I'm sorry, these pitchers are just talented. So it was great to watch that.
Yeah, hopefully this outing gives Waka the confidence going forward, because he really hasn't been that impressive this year so far. He's been, just being generous, maybe a little bit below average, and that's putting it lightly. But hopefully this does give him the confidence going forward into the second half of the season. And I kind of have the running joke of everything exciting that the Rays do, I miss. Well, that 1-0 game, I left the TV for a minute, and guess what happened when I walked away?
What could have happened?
The only action, and Margot scored.
Yeah, and that was crazy. But what you were saying a moment ago about Waka, too, I agree. If I see him or Yarbrough, I see they're the pitcher that are going to be up there the most. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, please let them be on their game day. And certainly I feel that strongly, more so I think about Waka. But I was impressed also in that same game with 2 fairly new guys. Fire Risen's been here with us a little bit. But Matt Whistler, both of those guys did a great job of holding, the Red Sox from scoring anything. Then we saw our good friend, Mr. KK, Before we got to Margot, there was a play earlier in the game with Kiermaier. And let's see, I don't remember who. I don't know. He hit the ball way out there. And I think Kiermaier had an idea where it was going to go. He caught it, and he threw that ball from way out there all the way into the home plate with Mejia there. And at this point, Renfroe, who had been on base, was running to home. And Mejia got the ball from Kiermaier, and bam, he was out. It was just an exciting moment to watch it. That was one of a couple of the most exciting moments for me during that game.
Yeah, that was a great play to watch. And, I love when Kiermaier or any outfielder cuts down a runner at home. I think that's really exciting to watch.
Well, KK brought it. There's no doubt about that. I love KK. He is such a player that at the top of the pinnacle, and expectations of mine are still high for him at every game. But boy, did he come through there. But let's go back to that. The only run, the only score point, if you will, on the game. And that was from Manuel Margot. Sheesh. In a post-game interview, I think, with Trisha Whitaker, he said something about being aggressive, and he knew he had to be aggressive. I was a conversation with Kevin Cashley, and I said, when he came in there between from third to home, how'd you feel? He said, well, I was betting on his speed. But let's talk about how Margot got there. He starts out with a base hit. So, okay, he got to first. I was hoping more, Margot. I was hoping you hit a home run. Yeah, you don't hit a home run every time you get up there. He does pretty well. Then Wendell gets up. Joey Wendell gets up there, and Margot steals second. The Red Sox catcher, he throws the ball to second as quick as he can, and he overthrows. Margot jumps up and makes his way all the way to third. Now, I think Wendell may have actually got on base, and Margot wasn't going to run in at that point because they moved real quickly. But Mejia comes up to the plate, and then it happens. A wild pitch. And Margot takes full advantage of it. He speeds his way into that home plate, and a little bit of a crash, but he comes in, and basically he wins the game on a wild pitch I can only wonder what the scorekeeper, how he marked that play down.
And it's something that we talked about in the offseason that we wanted to see more from the Rays is being more aggressive on the base paths. Sometimes it can backfire in your face and, that just happens. But look what happened here. Margot was aggressive, he stole second, and that led to the catcher to rush throw and overthrow the guy covering second. And that wound up leading to a run, and it was the only run, so that was the win for the Rays, all from being aggressive.
Exactly, and that's one of the things Margot was saying. He was going to be aggressive, and I know Cash encourages that. But it wasn't a walk-off home run. It was a walk-off wild pitch, and I congratulate Margot and the entire Rays team for, one, keeping that score down to nothing on the Red Sox, and also for the initiative to be as aggressive as they are with stealing bases. Like you said, sometimes it doesn't work out, but it's been working out pretty well all this year. Here's what Kevin Cash had to say about Margot.
Manny did a good job. I mean, there's some familiarity there with Barnes and facing the Red Sox and what tendencies they show or don't show, and Manny was ready to go. Well, I'm betting on his speed to get there if the ball trickles away. Vasquez is really good behind the plate. Tough pitch to handle. Just got away far enough. And then once he scored, you're just hoping that nobody got hurt.
Margot has just been a great addition to this team. And in many ways, I look at him like Joey Wendell. I think sometimes he's an unsung hero. He tends to be forgotten. And just like Brandon Lau, national broadcasters still don't know how to say Margot's name. Margot, I hear that. It's like, oh, God, cringe again. Please, people, please. There's pronunciation guides for the press to actually pay attention to. But Margot was just amazing.
Yeah, he is. And, maybe he just doesn't get the recognition because he plays for the Rays and, he doesn't do anything flashy or spectacular. But, I mean, he produces, and that's what matters most.
That indeed. And, while we're talking here, I'm probably belaboring the whole Red Sox thing a little bit too much. I did feel like that was a great game for all the performances on both sides. Pivetta, just, I marveled at what he was able to do. But then, after going ahead and taking that series from the Yankees, we face the Angels. Joe Maddon returns to the Trop. I think it's been a couple of years with his Angels. And just like I was looking for Pivetta, I was also looking for Ohtani, because here's the guy. I thought, as much as I hate to have to face that talent, man, is it something to watch. I was a little disappointed that he wasn't going to be pitching while he was here, but man, did he deliver right off the bat, truly. His first, at bat in that one game, bam, major home run.
Man, if he hit that ball any harder, I think he would have literally brought the roof down of the place. And, it does suck that we didn't get to see him pitch, but, maybe that was a bit of a blessing in disguise.
Now, that hit, was that the one? Let's see, it went, had a speed of 116 miles per hour?
I believe so.
I don't think the cameraman was able to actually capture where that ball was going because it was so high. I was expecting to see a penetration of the Tropicana roof. But it did go up there and hit off the D-ring. I thought it may have even actually gone over the catwalk.
Yeah, I saw it hit the ring, at least on the one angle I saw, and I originally thought it was going to clear the ring and then hit the scoreboard, which could have been interesting. You could have had like a couple of black dots on the video board from where the ball hit, but it didn't. It hit the ring, and unfortunately that roof is still standing.
He could have helped get us to a new domed field somewhere. Preferably not in Montreal, as you were stating earlier. Well, it was interesting, too. I mean, the Rays did a fantastic job. It was much more than Margot. It was much more than Kiermaier's arm. Zunino did some great stuff as well, some home runs. Brandon Lau had some home runs. I was really, really excited about that. But I was also surprised at some of the sloppy fielding by the Angels. And some of it, I don't think many of those players, maybe they hadn't been here yet, talking about the Angels, and hadn't really got the Trop effect about the Trump effect, being able to see a ball when it goes up there and trying to see a dirty ball against a dirty white roof. Even G-Man Choi had a problem with one of them recently, but there was some real sloppy fielding, I thought, on their part.
Yeah, we hear it every time a new team comes into the Trop. You know, the new teams, they don't know what it's like to play in this dome, or every time we get a national game here, the one time, like every 10 years, the announcers are like, the roof is the same color as the ball, so that really causes problems for the fielders. At every broadcast, you could play a drinking game with it.
Too true. Okay, man. Well, let's see what's. After seeing our guys play, I was flicking back and forth to some other games this past weekend. One of them was after we had defeated Boston in the series, watching them go back home and play another AL East team, and our good friends from New York there at Fenway. Let's see, Saturday night, we got to see another former Ray, Nate Eovaldi. Nate, who I absolutely love him. By the way, I got a bobblehead of his the other day. Nate Eovaldi, he pitched a no-run game through 7 innings. He pitched, I think it was 108 pitches. And then the 109th pitch, Mr. DJ LeMahieu got a hold of it, and it went out of the park. Well, he was a home run. He didn't go out of the park. Yeah, Nate, the 109th pitch was bam. It was DJ LeMahieu coming to the plate, and nobody wants to face that guy. Unfortunately, DJ did get a home run. I found myself I found myself conflicted over who I wanted to win that game. One, I'd like to see Boston go down a couple notches because I want to see the Rays maintain the number 1 position in the AL East. But then they've got Nate Eovaldi up there, man. I got Nate. I want to see him win, So my money was on him, my time, and I wanted to see him take that game.
I just root for chaos in these situations. I mean, we talked earlier this morning. I enjoyed Twitter because, the fire Aaron Boone chants were ringing loud and proud on Twitter all day yesterday, and quite the sight to see. And I mean, Yankee Twitter is great, especially when they're losing to the Red Sox. It's entertaining to watch.
It was interesting to watch the series, and of course, I always want to see Aaron Judge. You never know what you're going to get from him. You never know if he's going to show up. It seems like he's on the IL for a day or two, often. But there he is in the 9th inning. He has the opportunity. He had 2 men on base. He's at bat. There's 2 outs. And if he hits a home run, they're going to be surpassing the score of the Red Sox. I think it was like they already up to 4. And I think the Yankees had 2 runs. So if Judge hit a home run, he'd be bringing in 3 runs and maybe 5-4. And we go to the bottom of the 9th. But that didn't happen. He struck out, game over, and as he walked back to the dugout, he had such a glare, it felt like it would just penetrate right through your skull looking at it. I posted that on Twitter, but it didn't matter. It was over, and you were talking about Booney talking things up, and it's difficult for him. It's difficult for Cashman, too, to be able to say, it's still early. They can't say that anymore, We're getting close to the halfway mark here. It's going to be a couple of weeks. That's going to be it.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, we did a show maybe, a month and a half ago on what's wrong with the Yankees. Looking at them, I don't really know what exactly is wrong with them. Maybe it is leadership. Maybe the message has gotten stale. But looking at this series, it's not like the Yankees didn't have their chances. You saw it was Saturday night or Friday night when Judge left the 2 men on base. They could have tied that game there or even won it. And yesterday, they had a chance to tie it. They had bases loaded. I believe it was 5-2 at the time, or 6-2 or something like that. They had a chance to tie the game, and the bases were loaded, and they didn't do anything with it. So maybe they just can't cash in on their chances.
That does seem to be the direction or lack of direction where they're going right now. I don't know. The expectations are there. Booney will tell you, we've got the team here to do it. he isn't expecting much as far as Cashman bringing in anybody or selling anybody. And, it was, that Sunday game was, it was depressing if you're a Yankee fan. I mean, what? There's Gerrit Cole, the Gerrit Cole, and he surrenders 4 runs in the first inning, Brandon. 4 runs. It comes to the point where he actually sits down on the mound. I wouldn't say he buried his head, but it was like he needed a moment or two of contemplation to think, what did I do from here?
Yeah, and I actually saw on Twitter someone named Alex Spear. I'm probably saying that wrong, I'm sorry. He said that this is the first time in Cole's career that he's ever allowed multiple home runs in the first inning. And he also had another one too I can bring up. And I should have been more prepared, but I completely forgot about this. He said that the 3 homers allowed by Cole are tied for the most he's allowed in his career. He previously allowed 3 homers 5 times, most recently last season against Atlanta.
Of course, some of that came in the shape of what? There was 2 men on base, and I think it was Rafael Devers came up and hit that home run and brought in 3 of those runs right then. I think somebody else had already hit a home run for the game, but Rafael Devers, and man, if you're not watching him, you need to. This guy, and I've talked about him before watching him at bat. He looks a little intense, and he's constantly got that big piece of chaw in his mouth while he's up there doing it. But, Cole was he was suffering, man. He was suffering.
And we did joke about it yesterday, that there's probably going to be some hot take person out there writing an article. Gerrit Cole, no good without the sticky stuff. That was something we were joking about. That if we look hard enough, we can probably find something like that.
Yeah, I don't doubt it, but we'll see. I think he actually did pitch one game prior to this during the sticky stuff inspection, but it was nothing like this.
Oh, but Yankee fans, there was a silver lining in this dark weekend.
What could that be?
Their equipment truck did more damage to the Red Sox than their offense did.
What do you mean their equipment truck did more damage?
Well, when they were leaving, I guess the garage door didn't open up all the way, and it ended up running through it, and it was stuck there because the door wouldn't move and they couldn't get out.
So the Yankee truck is leaving Fenway, I guess from somewhere inside the stadium, and they got one of those doorways are just opening up, and it either went all the way up or they fell down on them, and they just kind of crashed into it. It looked like from the post I saw on Twitter.
Just go to Twitter and type in Yankees equipment truck. You'll find all you need to see.
The truck is stuck, and so are the Yankees. Well, Brandon, I mean, we've obviously been very excited about what's going on with the Rays this past week, and we kind of spotlighted a couple of things happening with the Red Sox and Yankees. But where are we now? Are the Rays still at the top of the AL East? How's the standings coming out?
No, despite winning the Red Sox series, really nothing happened in the standings, at least at the top. Red Sox still lead at 47-31, half a game ahead of the Rays, who are 47-32. The Blue Jays moved into third. They are 40-36, 6 games back. And right now, they're the best team in the AL East as they've gone 7-3 over their last 10 games. Yankees fell back to fourth. They are 40-37, 6.5 back. And then the Orioles, 24-54, 23 games back.
It's tough times in Birdland. I can't imagine what, Camden Yards must be a sad and lonely place right now.
Yeah, don't worry, Orioles fans. Ravens season is just around the corner.
Yeah, let's take a look a little later, too, about Trey Mancini. And don't know, we'll see. Did he make it to the All-Stars? Did he make it? Is he going to be in the Home Run Derby? I don't know. We'll talk a little later on that. But looking, overall, the Blue Jays, not surprisingly to see that they continue to climb. I mean, you look, Vlad Jr. is making a big difference. There's a lot of guys on that team, Bo Bichette. And when we get to the All-Stars here in a few minutes, we'll talk about, which teams are showing up there. And the Blue Jays did show up as far as people who made it through the first phase of the selection process for the All-Star game. Okay, now what I'd like to do is talk about the gentleman who's going to be the manager for the American League for the All-Star game. We're talking about the guy who took his team to the American League to the World Series last year. Talking about none other than Mr. Kevin Cash. This guy isn't just a protege of the manager before him. Talking about Mr. Joe Madden. We're talking about a guy who's already established himself in a lot of different ways. I mean, Kevin's been with the game for some time. Let's see. He started. I mean, he's a Tampa native, right, Brandon?
Yeah, he is. He actually played at Northside Little League here in Tampa, which actually made it all the way to the World Series, so that was really cool. He also went to Gaither High School, who's their coach at the time, Frank Permuti. He was a legend, and he unfortunately passed away about a year ago. He's one of the biggest names in Tampa baseball history. And I believe I've said it on the show, or at least I've said it to you. He actually went to high school, the same high school as a lot of people from my family did. They didn't go at the same time. They missed each other by about a year or so. So that's something that's always really cool. And he also went to Florida State. So a lot of ties to the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, big Florida boy, big Tampa Bay boy. I mean, starting out everything from Little League to doing everything what he did as well as a high school, et cetera. It was just amazing to see Kevin being integrated with Tampa, for so long. So that's exciting. I mean, FSU is looking to see, he started 148 games as an infielder. I mean, when I look at Kevin, I always think what he did as a catcher, but I would not necessarily have thought about him as an infielder. He batted 299 at FSU. Wow. I'd like to have that. And yeah. See, he also appeared in 2 College World Series, 1998 and 1999 for FSU, including a second-place finish in 1999. He was voted second-team All-American at third base by the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association. But, rather outstanding. Here, even before he went out of college, he was achieving so much.
It's good to have a manager who's played the game, and honestly, he's basically still fresh out of the league. This is still relatively recent, all of his experiences. So I think that's really good. He can relate to the players more, because he's closer to their age. He's not like certain other managers in baseball where they're like 50 years older than their players, even more in some cases. So, and he seems like he's a likable guy. He stands up for his players, and that really shows in the way that they play for him.
It does, and because he has done so many different things, without going into his full player history, he had some ups and downs, and he wanted the catcher position, but his at-bat stuff later on wasn't the greatest. But people like Francona, I think, who had managed him at one team, later brought Kevin on as his bench coach for Cleveland. It is interesting to note that from being a bench coach, Cleveland, Kevin went on further to the Tampa Bay Rays, but that was back in December 5th, 2014. What's interesting about that is the day that he became on, he was the youngest manager in the league at that time. Kevin's now 43 years old, and that was the day before his birthday. It's kind of an early birthday present. Oh, by the way, here you are. You are now the manager of the Tampa Bay Rays, and tomorrow's your birthday, but we thought we'd go ahead and give it to you now. But he earned that. He's earned it over and over again since he's been a manager.
Yeah, he has, and sometimes I've agreed with what he does, sometimes I haven't, and we made that perfectly clear. It's more like an organizational philosophy with a lot of the things, and no matter what the decision is, he will stand by it. He'll support his players, support his team, organization, and everything. And like I said earlier, it may sound like a broken record. That's why everybody loves to play for him, is because no matter what, he'll have your back, even though it may not make sense to everybody else. He'll make a decision, he'll stand by it, and he'll support it no matter what.
He does. I mean, and we all know there's been questions about when to pull a pitcher, and that has come back with some nasty reflection from the public. But the players themselves basically say, hey, I came here to work with Kevin Cash. Kevin Cash knows what he's doing. I'm more than happy to follow the skipper's, what he's telling me out there. A good pitcher always wants to stay on the mound, but they respect their manager, they respect his results, and they realize that he will stand behind them. Heaven knows he stood behind him when the Yankees, Aroldis Chapman was throwing at Mike Brosseau, the Rays, and practically hit him in the head with a pitch over 100 miles per hour. Cash made it back to the post-game interview, and man, he was angry. He had that statement where he said, "Okay, that's probably not." He probably doesn't look at that as his best shining moment of his career, and I think he kind of walked it back a little bit later. But the thing of it was, he stood up for those players. He stood up for his boys, and that meant a lot to them. That's who he is. He isn't out there throwing out threats all the time. And even that, like I said, he didn't necessarily say it was a threat, but he was passionate at that moment. He's passionate for his team, and he shared it.
Yeah, and I like that. That's what I want in my manager. He stands up for his players, and he basically went up there in that press conference and says, I don't give a who you are, if you're the Yankees or if you're a single-A team. You're not going to do this to my guys. And if you want to play that way, we can play that way too. We're not scared of you. That's what I think. That's what I want in my leader.
Well, I agree. And I certainly feel much better about Kevin Cash than I did with Joe Girardi trying to stand up for, let me check out that glove. I got to stand behind my team. No, but Kevin said fantastic. I mean, in the age of COVID, to take a team to the World Series. And, he also won the Manager of the Year. Let's see, who was it? I think it was it Don Mattingly in 2020. And
I believe so.
Yeah. So in the age of COVID, and of course the celebration was a Zoom call from his house. That was kind of sad. Okay, well, let's hear what his old coach Terry Francona had to say. I'm so proud of you. We knew when we had him in Cleveland that we weren't going to be able to keep him very long. And that's a big compliment because he made such a big impact in such a short amount of time. He's just getting better and better, and I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the Rays, and I'm thrilled for his family. Well, that kind of goes to the gist of it. I mean, the respect that Cash has from his players, but he also has it from other managers as well. And let's take a look for a moment, if we will, Brandon, about who's some of the folks who have come on as coaches at the Rays and who've done other things since then. Some of these have been working directly with Cash, and some have been there before. So we can start with Charlie Montoyo. He's manager of the Blue Jays now, but he joined the Tampa Bay Devil Rays the year before the expansion team even played in the major leagues. He was manager of the rookie-level Princeton Devil Rays, the defunct Princeton Devil Rays, who disappeared after the contraction. Let's see, after 8 seasons as a manager of the Durham Bulls, he was moved up to third base coach with the Rays, and that was back in 2015. So Montoyo, after the 2017, he became the Rays bench coach, and October 25th, 2018, Montoyo was hired by the Blue Jays as their new manager.
Yeah, Montoyo, I think that's really cool. I mean, we talk about Cash like he's still this young kid out there. He's got a little bit of a coaching tree going, of course. Montoyo was the latest of them to drift out there onto his own. Baldelli was one as well. And I remember Montoyo coming on as the third base coach, and then they moved him to bench coach. And he seemed to really do a good job. And I mean, I think he's doing a pretty good job in Toronto as well, even though they've had a little bit of a slow start they've gotten going recently. And with that future ahead of him, I think he could do bright things as well. Maybe just as good as Cash, if not better.
Yeah, he's got a good, strong, young team, and they've done a lot to build that since he's been there. So I'm looking for great things from you. And you mentioned Rocco Baldelli. What's going on with him?
Yeah, he's with the Twins now. He's their manager, and he was drafted by the Rays. He played here his whole career pretty much, and he had these big expectations. Unfortunately, he couldn't reach those, no fault of his own. He unfortunately had a disease that, I guess basically affected his muscles and made him tired so much quicker. And I believe before he was even 30, I think he was 29, it got to a point where he couldn't do it anymore. So he retired and went into coaching, and he became a really good coach. And I was hoping one day he could maybe become a Rays manager, but that doesn't seem possible, at least at the moment. And he moved on to the Twins. He did a really good job his first few years. They haven't won a playoff series, unfortunately, yet. Have a bad year going right now, and hopefully he can keep going there, because I'm rooting for him. Everybody here loves him. He's one of the fan favorites from the Devil Rays days, and I hope that he finds success, and maybe one day they can all meet each other in the playoffs.
That could be, and the interesting thing about Baldelli too is that while Cash was awarded the AL Manager of the Year in 2020, didn't Rocco get that in 2019?
Yes, he did, and I believe you told me he was the youngest manager to win that award at like 38. I believe that's what it was.
Rocco was just amazing, and so it's interesting. Looking at another coach from the Rays, but not so much under Cash, was Davey Martinez. He was a bench coach, I think, under Joe Madden's day. Joe Madden was, I think, from 2006 to 2014. And we had, Davey was here. Martinez worked for the Rays as a spring training instructor in 2006 and 2007. In October 2007, he was hired by the Rays as the bench coach. And as the Rays bench coach, he was in charge of defensive positioning, and he also worked with the players on their bunting and base running. Something they're doing, not so much bunting, but the base running they're doing really well now. Once Madden decided he was going to leave Tampa Bay and go to the Cubs, the Rays had to look for somebody else. So before they decided on Cash, Martinez seemed like a really good prospect for that position. So much so that players like Ben Zobrist, Alex Cobb, and Evan Longoria said, hey, go ahead, bring this guy in. He's the one. He's the one we like. He should be managing the team. But no, the Rays decided otherwise, and we got Kevin Cash.
Yeah, it seemed like everybody really wanted Davey to take over. I mean, it seemed like it was meant to happen. He was under Madden all those years, almost like the manager in waiting. And when he left, everybody was like, hey, we just slot Martinez in there, and everybody loves him. Everybody knows him. The system doesn't really have to change at all. They can just keep going as is. But it seemed like the Rays, they just wanted to go in a different direction and move on from the Madden era. And now we're in the Cash era.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I think you're right. Sometimes it's like having somebody who leaves your workplace and say, yeah, who you should hire? You should hire this other guy. And it's like, well, you know what? You left us, and we want to go another direction. We've been looking at you, Joe, for a while, so maybe they were or were not happy to see him go. But at that point, the Rays have been always ready to make a new direction if necessary. Neander, I think, recently referred to himself as ruthless when he had to make some decisions. So,
hey, it's not like it worked out too bad for him. He got 2 World Series rings out of that deal.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And of course, Davey's doing pretty good there, right?
Yeah, he is. He, of course, won his first ring with the Cubs. And then he also won it with another one with the Nationals as their manager. And I mean, look at the Nationals this year. They're still a little bit dangerous, and who knows what they could do. Can never rule them out.
Yeah, we're going to be facing them soon, so I want to see how that goes. We'll see. Well, Brandon, we were talking about a lot of these other coaches who became managers. And Montoyo, he'd been a manager of the Durham Bulls. And you don't just start out with the major leagues. And one of the things we've found out is with the Rays having probably one of the best farm systems, period, what we found out is there's just a lot of talent there. So that being said, let's take a quick look at what's going on in the Rays minor leagues. And of course, as a moment ago mentioned, there are no longer a Princeton Rays. That is defunct. And we no longer have the Hudson Valley Renegades, because that team, we basically traded them off for another team, which is the Charleston RiverDogs. And let's see what else. We also lost the Stone Crabs. So let's focus on the good stuff. Durham Bulls, what's happening there? Right now, they are number 1 in the AAA Southwest with 31 wins and 15 losses, with a win-loss percentage of .674. In their last 10 games, they won 7 of those, 7 wins, 3 losses. Home, they're 14-9. Road, 17-6. That's always interesting to me when you see a stronger showing on the road than you do at home.
Yeah, that is. You usually want to, maybe be average on the road and excel at home, but maybe they just want to be a little bit different.
Well, they're doing well, so we'll see how they continue for the rest of the season. This may be a day old, so folks, stats may be slightly different. Montgomery Biscuits, AA South, they're not doing quite as well as Durham. We're seeing them, and let's see, they are 3rd out of 4 teams. They are how many games back? They're 7 games back. Mississippi leads that division there, and then Pensacola, and then Montgomery, and then Biloxi. Then we make our way up to Bowling Green, Kentucky, with the Hot Rods. I love that name. Bowling Green Hot Rods. One of the reasons I think they call it that is because they got a Corvette plant where they build the Corvettes nearby.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Bowling Green, if you ever go through Bowling Green, Kentucky, you have to stop at the Corvette Museum. It's amazing. I usually stop there every time I go up to Kentucky. But they've got a display of all these, all the different models of the cars and the history, etc. I digress. Coming back to the Bowling Green Hot Rods, how are they doing in their High A South? They also are leading, aren't they, Brandon? They're 30 wins and 15 losses.
They are. But unlike the Bulls, they dominate at home and are average on the road.
Yeah, you just don't know. And then I'm always curious to look and see what's happened with the Charleston RiverDogs, because there we are with a brand new team falling underneath our banner. And they're leading also their division. They're 30 wins and 15 losses. And they've won 8 out of their last 10 games. So huge impact.
That's pretty impressive and is a testament to the depth of the entire organization. When all but one team, from the majors to the lowest levels of the minors, are leading their divisions.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of tells the tale when you're saying where's the strong farm system, and it's one of the reasons that it's a way of reflecting that with the Rays. Okay, while this is a special Raise Up edition of Baseball Biz, there is some business we need to take care of, Brandon. I'm talking about the upcoming Major League Baseball All-Star Game. And man, oh man, it's still fresh. We've gone through the first phase of the ballots in picking the players. Now, Brandon and I are going to do a show next week with a little bit more detail about the All-Star games coming up. And looking at the American League All-Star finalists, it's interesting to see there are absolutely no Tampa Bay Rays on this team. Catcher, I thought maybe we might see Mike Zunino here. He didn't make that cut. But we've got players from Kansas City, Astros, White Sox. I wasn't surprised to see Yasmani Grandal there. Was there anybody there that stuck out to you as catcher that you thought you would or wouldn't see?
I mean, honestly, at the catcher position, no, not really. I mean, I think I could make the case for Zunino being there, but honestly, I think in the catcher position, those 3 players are deserving of their spot.
I get that. Well, we'll kind of quickly go down this because we're going to do a deep dive next time out. First base, Vlad Jr., Yuli Gurriel, Jose Abreu. Second base, Marcus Semien, Jose Altuve, DJ LeMahieu. Third base, Rafael Devers, not surprised to see him at all. Alex Bregman and Moncado. Shortstop, you got Xander Bogaerts, Bo Bichette, again, not surprised. Carlos Correa. Designated hitter, Shohei Ohtani. And then you got to see J.D. Martinez and Jordan Alvarez. Outfield, Mike Trout, which is not going to happen because the poor guy's injured right now. Aaron Judge, Byron Buxton, Michael Brantley, Teoscar Hernandez, Cedric Mullins, Alex Verdugo, and Randall Grichuk.
Man, I was hoping to see a Rosarena, maybe even Kiermaier, up there in the outfield position. I mean, I know, Kiermaier is not as strong as the plate of the Rosarena, and the Rosarena is not as strong in the field as Kiermaier is, but, I mean, on the run that a Rosarena did last year in the playoffs, and what he's done so far this year, I think that he would be deserving of being a finalist.
I agree. I mean, he does pretty daggone good at the field, and I don't think he's necessarily had the strength or expectations in the last few games that I'd like to see from him, but he definitely deserved to be there as a finalist. You want to take a look here what we got with the National League All-Stars? You want to go down that list?
Yeah, we can if you would like.
Go ahead if you don't mind.
All right, at catcher, we have Buster Posey, Yadier Molina, and Wilson Contreras. Posey, of course, is a part of those Giants who they're still chugging along. Maybe we should start taking them a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
First base, you have Max Muncy, Freddie Freeman, and Anthony Rizzo. That's a really strong position group right there. Second base, you have Ozzie Albies, Adam Frazier, and Gavin Lux. Third base, Chris Bryant, Nolan Arenado, and Justin Turner, another really strong position group. At short, Fernando Tatis Jr., Javier Baez, and Brandon Crawford. And in the outfield, you have Ronald Acuna Jr., Nick Castellanos, Jesse Winker, Mookie Betts, Chris Taylor, Juan Soto, Bryce Harper, Jock Peterson, and Mike Yastrzemski.
Okay, so here we coming up. It's going to be the 2021 Major League Baseball All-Star Game. Brandon and I will give you our picks next week and also dig a little bit deeper into finding out who's going to be pitching. Because you and I, Brandon, and everybody else who's a fan, were not able to vote on that, okay? In Phase 1, fans vote on all of that. So Phase 2 should be starting, I think, maybe today. And when it does come to the pitchers, MLB makes those decisions. So I'm really curious to see what they come up with.
I believe Rich Hill and Tyler Glasnow should definitely be in that little rotation.
Yeah. I hope Tyler is of strength and ready to do that because I would love to see those. And especially since Kevin Cash is going to be managing that team. I'd like to see at least a couple of Rays on there, please. So, yeah, Rich Hill would definitely be great. And if Tyler's up to it, man, that would make a difference. I used to always say, oh, well, why would you want to have a player in the All-Star game? That's just one more game where they could get hurt. But it's a great place for us as fans to see all of these guys in one game shine. And I think there's a bit of pride for each individual player, too, for it.
Yeah, there is. And I put it on Twitter. I thought it was always cool and one of my favorite parts to see all those uniforms out there and all the All-Stars out there wearing their uniform. And it was always cool to see the Rays uniform in the dugout or out on the field. Unfortunately, we're not going to get that this year because baseball made those god-awful, horrendous All-Star uniforms. So that unfortunately went away, but it's going to be cool having the All-Star game back, even though, it started to seem like it lost its luster a little bit, but maybe this will bring back a little bit more of the love for it.
But also coming up here, time to shine. Here we are in the middle of the season. The Home Run Derby. Monday, July 12th, 2021. And that's always exciting. And again, Brandon, I've always been the man, would somebody potentially hurt themselves? Would they exert themselves too much hitting? I don't think that's ever really been a problem. But it's interesting to see who's going to come. And not surprising, Pete Alonso's going to be back there again. He's won it in the past.
That'll be exciting. Another hometown kid. And maybe that can be a topic for our All-Star show is, the risk to the All-Star game and Home Run Derby.
Ooh, yeah. I'll do a little homework on that one. What's interesting, too, about this home run derby is looking at who's not coming. Early on, Vladdy Jr. said, you know what, no, not going to be there. And I think Tatis Jr., who's kind of in competition with him in many capacities, said, no, I'm not going to be there either. Maybe it was health reasons, but it couldn't be too much health reasons when the other day, in the first 4 innings of a game, he had 3 home runs. You got Ohtani. He's going to be coming. So I'm excited to see that. And so, anyway, that's what's happening. Let's come back to the Rays once again and see what the upcoming games we got. We're talking about the Nationals facing Davey Martinez again. And then we're going to be facing the Blue Jays. And yet another manager to be faced once again. And Mr. Charlie Montoyo. So both of those games will be exciting. I'm really curious to see how this plays out. We're now half a game behind the Red Sox, and we'll keep watching, man. It's almost mid-season here. See what's going to happen with the AL East.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. We're definitely going to have a lot to talk about when we come back.
Yeah, and one of the things that had really pretty much been taking over everything as far as MLB topics, and that was sticky stuff. What was going on? Did you see something going on up here in Seattle the other day, Brandon?
Yeah, and we're about a week into the sticky stuff situation, and you think still a week everybody would be, on their toes, doing everything they can not to get caught. But Héctor Santiago, whether he was using sticky stuff or not, they're trying to say it was rosin, and it was just mixed with sweat. It becomes stickier. I guess that's what they're trying to say that it was. And maybe it was. I can't tell. I wasn't there. We'll find out soon when the report comes out on it. But he could be suspended 10 games for this. And he unfortunately gets the honor of being the first pitcher ejected in the sticky stuff inspection era. And he will now unfortunately be the butt of that joke until the end of time.
Who's that? Oh, you mean Héctor Santiago. Yeah, I remember him. What was his average? Well, I don't know his average, but I do remember he was the first guy to get pulled aside about sticky stuff and take his glove away and send it to the lab. We're going to find out what works and what doesn't work with these rules, and I think this will be the template for part of that discovery. The enforcement is very simple. The umpire makes the decision right then and there. I don't think it's really up for review, at least not at that moment. And the thing as far as how can you identify that? We've talked about, will there be some kind of sanctioned sticky stuff in the future? And with Mr. Santiago, with him and his manager arguing, hey, I thought you were kidding when you said this. Only thing I've had is the rosin. And, well, we found something in your glove. Well, bingo, no big surprise. I picked up the rosin bag at the bottom of my mound here, and I picked it up, and I kind of pitch it back and forth between my left and my right hand, trying to get it on there. So guess what? I put one of my hands into the glove, and you found it in there. It seems simple, but I'm sure it isn't. And what will really tell the tale is once they do a little testing on that glove. And if they say sweat and rosin is the wrong thing to have, saying that that's still considered a foreign substance, then they're going to have to address it, make some new rules.
It'll be interesting to follow. Maybe when we come back, we'll have the verdict on it, and we can talk about it then.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, it's been another great day here looking at the wild and crazy world of baseball with a special Raise Up edition. And remember, everybody, you can find Brandon at Sports Blitz Pod and me, Mark Corbett, at The Baseball Biz on Twitter. So we hope to hear from you soon on there. Things have been exciting, and watch out for the sticky stuff. We look forward to talking with you guys again real soon. Special thanks to Scott Holmes for the music, Stomps and Claps.